Have you ever wondered why some people seem to notice everything? A tiny change in someone's voice, a strange look across the room, the moment a conversation suddenly feels uncomfortable. They can walk into a situation and somehow sense that something isn't right. People sometimes call this traumatic intelligence. The idea is that trauma can make you more perceptive, more empathetic, and better at understanding people. Almost like your pain gave you a hidden ability. But here's the part that makes this idea complicated. What if the thing that looks like a superpower was actually something you learned because you had to? Traumatic intelligence isn't a recognized psychological diagnosis or official scientific concept, but the experiences behind the term can point towards something very real. Because when your environment feels unpredictable, your brain learns to pay attention. Imagine growing up never knowing what mood someone would be in. You start noticing patterns. You learn to hear anger before someone raises their voice. You learn to recognize tension before an argument begins. You learn to watch people's faces, their body language, even their silence. Not because you're naturally gifted at reading people, but because knowing what was coming next helped you feel safer. Over time, this can become automatic. You enter a room and your brain starts scanning. Who's upset? Who's uncomfortable? Is something about to happen? To other people, this might look like incredible intuition, but psychologically, it can sometimes be connected to hypervigilance, the state of being constantly alert for possible danger. And here's the strange part. The same ability that once helped you survive can eventually become exhausting. You might be able to read everyone else's emotions while struggling to understand your own. You might immediately notice when someone is pulling away, but ignore your own need for reassurance. You might sense that someone is having a bad day, but never realize that you're emotionally drained too. This is why calling these abilities superpowers can be misleading, because sometimes they're not gifts, they're adaptations, and adaptations often come with a cost. Take empathy. Someone who has experienced emotional pain may become deeply sensitive to the feelings of others. That's beautiful. But if you learned to constantly monitor other people's emotions, you might also start feeling responsible for them. You become the person everyone talks to, the person who notices when something is wrong, the person who tries to keep everyone happy. And eventually, you may realize that you're carrying emotions that were never yours to carry. The same thing can happen with independence. Maybe you became incredibly self-reliant. You don't ask for help, you handle everything yourself. Everyone sees you as strong. But somewhere underneath that strength might be a belief you learned a long time ago. If I don't take care of myself, nobody will. So yes, trauma can sometimes be followed by growth. Psychologists have a term for this: post-traumatic growth. Some people, after experiencing serious adversity, develop a deeper appreciation for life, stronger relationships, a clearer sense of what matters, or a greater sense of personal strength. But there's an important distinction. Growth after trauma does not mean trauma was good. It doesn't mean the suffering was necessary. And it doesn't mean everyone who experiences trauma will become stronger because of it. It simply means that human beings can sometimes create meaning and growth from experiences they never deserved. That's why I think there's a better way to understand the idea of traumatic intelligence. Maybe trauma didn't make you smarter. Maybe it taught you to notice things other people never had to notice. Maybe it made you sensitive to changes because you once needed to be. Maybe it made you independent because depending on someone didn't always feel safe. Maybe it made you empathetic because you know what it feels like to be misunderstood. These qualities can become genuine strengths, but you don't have to romanticize the pain that created them, because healing isn't about losing everything you learned. It's about gaining the ability to choose when you need those skills. You can be observant without constantly searching for danger. You can be empathetic without absorbing everyone's emotions. You can be strong without refusing help. You can understand people without feeling responsible for fixing them. So, is traumatic intelligence real? Not as an established psychological concept, but the experiences people describe with that term can be connected to very real psychological processes like hypervigilance, emotional sensitivity, survival adaptations, resilience, and post-traumatic growth. And maybe that's the most important part. You are not powerful because you were hurt. You are powerful because you survived. and because you can decide what happens next. Your past may explain why you learned certain ways to protect yourself, but it doesn't have to decide how you live forever. Sometimes real healing isn't becoming better at detecting danger. It's finally learning that you don't have to be on guard all the time, because surviving taught you how to stay safe, but healing can teach you something different, how to finally feel safe. If you've ever noticed a strength in yourself that may have come from something difficult you experienced, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And remember, you can be proud of the person you became without being grateful for the pain that made you become them.